Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. So yesterday I did a video asking what topics you'd like to hear more from me about. And my DMs were blowing up. You guys voted. You want more about mindset. So I had so many of you talk with me about how you've been trying things. You know, you've been trying new diets, you've been trying new goals, you've been trying new spiritual practices, all these different things, but you just keep missing the mark. And you're like, you know, I'm doing really good, and then I fail, and then I do this, and then nothing works, and yada, and all these things. And then I had actually one of you say something about, well, you know, I want all these things. However, I realized that I need to do shadow work first. And until I do shadow work, nothing else is going to matter, and nothing else that I do is going to work. And so there's a quote by Henry Ford that is so powerful. And he says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. I want you to really think about that. No pun intended, since we're talking about mindset. But, you know, the stories that we have in our brain, the stories that we have in our mind make up our reality. It truly does. If we tell ourselves, I'm not good at public speaking, then what happens every time you go to speak in front of a group of people, even if it's a small group, what do? You freak out, your stomach gets in knots, you get sweaty, you feel anxious, maybe you start stammering over your words. And because you're thinking in your brain, I'm not a public speaker, I'm not a good speaker, all these things, and you reinforce that. So there's so many different ways and so many different avenues that I could take when we talk about mindset. And I used to think mindset was bullshit, like absolute and utter bullshit. I'm like, if I work hard enough, I should get what I am working towards, right? No. Because what was happening was I was working towards this goal, whatever it was, whether it was in my personal life or in my business. I was working and I was trying and I'm like, yes, let's do this. But yet every time, or almost every time, I would fail. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, seriously? And I was getting really pissed. Well, I had coach after coach after coach tell me, it's just your mindset. It's your mindset. And I said, mindset. This is bullshit. I'm working hard. I should get this. And they're like, well, do you believe that you can have this? Do you really, truly, ultimately believe that this is possible? And when I sat to think about it, I'm like, no. Or, yes, but, and there was a bunch of caveats, but if I get this, that means this, this, and this, and those things I didn't really want. And so even though my body was going through the motions of trying to get that thing, my mind was telling me, fuck that, you do not want that. And so what happened was I was doing all the work, but I was doing it tethered. I was holding myself back from fully being able to show up and reach and achieve and be and do and have that thing in my life. And I listened to and read all of Neville Goddard's work. Now, if you've ever heard of Neville Goddard and you've listened to him, you know that he literally blows the top off of everything. Now, Neville Goddard is kind of a pioneer way back in his day. He was really popular in the 50s. But he truly was all about mindset and about, can you embody this version of you? Don't act as if this is you. Literally act from this place and be from this place of already having that thing that you want. And doing this involves shifting your mindset from the lack that you see out here to the abundance that you have inside of you. So I had a client of mine reach out in our private Voxer group inside the 1 Degree Shift Tribe. She's a VIP. And she said, you know, so last week we did an event called our Lunch and Learn. And this month is all about priorities. And I was talking about the tortoise and the hare and how the hare starts off strong, they're blowing and going, and then they're like, yeah, I've got this, and then they stop and they rest and they take a nap or whatever, and then all of a sudden that compounding interest, that movement creates momentum type energy, all of a sudden, boom, stalls out, because he starts out strong, and then stalls out. Meanwhile, the tortoise, slow and steady, they run out of the gate and they're like, all right, slow and steady, let's do this. Now, the whole time, the tortoise is like, I got this. Hell yeah, woohoo, I'm doing it. And he's just going, just chilling, and he keeps putting one foot in front of the other. And the hare is like, oh yeah, the tortoise, slow, loser, whatever. And so what the hare does is, I'm gonna like haul ass out of the gate. I'm gonna be blowing and going for a while. And then, you know what, hey, I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna take a nap, but I'm good because who is gonna beat me? Like, I am the fastest creature here. So the hare falls asleep. Meanwhile, the tortoise just keeps going and going and going. This is that compounding interest of our efforts combined with our mindset. Okay, so you might have a great mindset, but your efforts, if they suck, and you go all in for 2 minutes, or you go all in for 2 weeks, or you go all in for 2 months, and then you stop, your progress, your momentum is going to stop. But when you have the right mindset and say, I might be going slow, but I'm still going. I'm still doing it. I got this. I can do this. What happens? You're going to win the race. But if you also have, and we're kind of circling back to those mindset things that we tell ourselves, if you're thinking, well, I'm just a tortoise and there's no way that I'm going to win. And so the whole time that you're walking, you're like, yeah, the hare is so much like faster than me, so much stronger than me. You know, he really just jumped out of the gate. Oh my gosh, even though I don't see him, I really don't think that I'm gonna like be able to make it. Wow, why is the hare like hanging out under the tree? Like, what? So then you start to doubt yourself. So what do? You circle back around to where the hare is taking a nap. You wake the hare up, and the hare's like, oh shit, dude, why are you over here? Like, we're supposed to be doing a race. Hang on, and then the hare's gonna win. See what I mean? So you've got to combine not only your momentum, your movement. So often I've talked about how movement creates momentum. I did several TikToks about this. I've talked about it for years. But when you feel stuck in anything in your life, the easiest way to get unstuck is to just do something. You can exercise, you can clean the dishes, you can go outside for a walk, you can put laundry away, but get up and do something. Do something. And what's going to happen is that's going to shift your energy, not only physically, but in your brain. And it's going to start to see where you're at mentally and allow your ego to be occupied by whatever action it is that you're doing. And then it allows spirit to drop in to give you that kind of divine intervention of, hey, now do this. But again, if you believe ultimately in your heart that no matter what you do, you're not going to get something, you're not going to get it. So if you feel you have to do shadow work in order to achieve whatever, then no matter what you do, it's not going to work. But if you shift your paradigm, if you shift that thought pattern in your head that you learn whenever and from whomever, that you have to do shadow work in order to make sure that, you know, to break through that thing, because, you know, so often in the spiritual community, you have to have that awakening. You have to have that breakthrough. You have to have the dark night of the soul. I call bullshit. No, you don't. Your dark night of the soul could be a dark afternoon one day when you say, fuck this. I am tired of being sick and tired. I am done. That literally can all that, I mean, that's all it has to be if you want it to be. You don't have to go through the bullshit in order to get what you want. But if you're telling yourself that you have to, then you're going to. What you set your mind to is what you're going to get. If you say things are going to be hard, it's going to be hard. If you think things are going to be easy, it's going to be easy. It's all in how you choose to perceive the situation. You take two people that have grown up in the same household, But one has a piss poor attitude of everything is negative, everything is against them, all yada, yada, yada. And then you have the other person that looks at the lighter side of things and they're like, meh, whatever. What's gonna happen? Two totally different lifestyles, two totally different sets of beliefs, and two totally different sets of health. Like the person that is stressed out is probably going to be sick because excess cortisol or stress hormone, it causes all kinds of bullshit to happen in the body. But the person that's like, meh, whatever, and they're a duck and they just let things just roll off of them and pass through them, what happens is life is gonna be a game to them. They're gonna be like, okay, what can I do today? What else is possible? What's the opportunity here? Woohoo! Meanwhile, the other person is like, oh my God, they're so lucky. What the hell? What happened to me? Why can't I have that experience? You can. You can. Everything is wrapped around your mindset. It's wrapped around whether or not you believe that you can have, be, or do something in your life. Truly. So I want you to think about what's one thing that you've tried to do? Well, actually, first of all, what's one thing that you've accomplished? So one thing I've accomplished is I am a United States Marine, okay? So went to boot camp on June 23rd, 1993, graduated boot camp on my birthday in September. I turned 18 and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I just did this. And the whole time I was going to boot camp and going through boot camp, my mantra was, if Lisa can do this, so can I. That's one of my older sisters who also is a Marine. Now, when I graduated, I was like, holy hell, I just graduated United States Marine Corps boot camp. This is freaking crazy, okay? So that was huge. When I went into it, I didn't know it was the hardest. I honestly didn't know until years later. But I knew if Lisa can do this, so can I. Lisa was the middle child. Lisa did not have it easy. We picked on her. I was the youngest. And I was such a bitch. I was such an ass to make fun of her or whatever. But, kids are kids. And she is freaking tough as nails. And she has taught me so much in my life. But at the time, I was just in a really shitty place in my life. If you've read my book, The 1 Degree Shift, you've heard part of my story about how I was kicked out at 16. And I literally was running away. And I said, you know what? Like all of my friends, my sister was joining the Marine Corps. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna join the Marine Corps. And the only sliver of hope that I had was, if Lisa can do this, so can I. And I really looked up to her, even though, we made fun of her. She, made fun of all of us. I mean, that's just like what sisters do. But I really, truly looked up to her and I'm like, if Lisa can do this, so can I. And that was like my mantra in boot camp. If Lisa can do this, so can I. If Lisa can do this, so can I. And I convinced myself to do things that I was terrified of. Terrified. And I did it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is crazy. I just did this. So think about something that you did. That you were like, maybe it's driving a stick shift or driving a car on a highway. A lot of people have anxiety about driving cars on highways. Maybe it is public speaking. Whatever that is, maybe it's going to college. Maybe it's starting a new job. Maybe it's asking that person out that you've always wanted to ask out. Maybe it's cutting up a credit card that you've been addicted to using. Maybe it's going through some type of, fellowship like AA or NA or MA or any of the other fellowships, and realizing that you have an addiction and that you want support and help to stop that addiction in your life. Whatever it is, think of something that you said, I want this. And then you put your mind to it and you did it. I want you to think about that. What is that? And I really want you to just fix that in your mind. I did this. And then I also want you to think about, what was your mindset around that particular thing? Like maybe you wanted to date someone and they were single and you're like, okay, I want to date that person. And that was like single point focus. I want to date this person. Like if you've ever seen 50 First Dates, he was so hell-bent on like every day having her fall in love with him. If you haven't seen that movie, you totally need to see it. Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler. It's an awesome movie. But every day, his goal was single pointed, I am going to have her fall in love with me. Every single day. So what has been your goal that you accomplished? And remember the mindset that you had. Remember the single point focus that you were like, yes, I want this. I want this. If you saw a dog and you're like, oh my God, I totally want to adopt a corgi or a little wiener dog or a pit bull, whatever it is. So I want you to embody that energy, like remember that energy and let that energy flood through you and remind you of what it feels like to be single point focused and be like, yes, hell yeah. And like not doing it was not an option. Not succeeding was not even a thought in your brain. Like you, of course, we're going to do this. Of course, this is yours. Of course, you're going to succeed. Of course, you're going to accomplish this. Of course you are. Now I want you to think about that thing that you've been having trouble with, that you've been trying to do, but things just seem to keep failing. Things just seem to keep falling short. Things just seem to not work out and you're like, oh, what the hell? Stop, regroup, check in with your mindset. Do you truly believe that you can have, do, or be that thing in your life? Or are you attaching this big story to it? I really want you to sit here and think about this. Now, you should be able to know within an instant, oh, yeah, I want this and I keep falling short. And this is the story that I keep telling myself. Okay, perfect. So now that you have recognized that story in, up here, it could be, well, I'm the hare. Like I'm the one that starts off strong and then just fizzles out. Well, part of that is learning new habits. I talk about this in my book. Part 3 is all about habits. We talk about your habits, the science behind a habit, and willpower and habits. And so a habit, it takes almost a year, just depending on the difficulty of the new habit, it takes almost a year to create a new habit. On average, it's about 64 to 68 days to create a new habit. I have the studies listed in here. It's not 21 days. And so what happens after we start a new habit, our brain starts to look for patterns of that new action that we're taking. And then it stores the habit or the pattern that it sees in the back part of the brain for later. And this actually happens so that we can conserve energy. And so after about 2 to 3 weeks, the newness wears off of it. And also the momentum can wear off as well because it doesn't feel as new. And we kind of start to get bored with it because it's becoming a habit. And then what usually happens around the 2 to 3 week mark is we start to kind of pull back because it doesn't feel as new. It's kind of boring. We're kind of like, meh, That's a good thing because it's telling us that mehness is telling us that is starting to become a habit. We don't have to work as hard to do that thing in our life anymore. But most people stop doing it altogether, hence the whole hare from the tortoise and the hare. You stop your momentum. Meanwhile, the tortoise knows slow and steady wins the race. It's that whole compounding interest thing. If you don't know about compounding interest, Google it. There's whole courses on it and whole books on it. But essentially, movement creates momentum. And so the slow and steady wins the race. And allowing yourself to recognize, yes, I can just keep going. This is what the whole 1 degree shift is all about. Giving yourself permission to say, where am I at? This is the beginning of your race here, okay? Where you're at. And this is where you want to be. And when you give yourself permission to say, okay, I don't have to go from here to here in one day. That's unrealistic. But give yourself permission to say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I want. Do I believe that I can get this or do this or be this or have this in my life? If the answer is no, you can either dig into it, lean into that no and figure out why, like who told you can't have this? Where did you learn that from? And unpack that with either a therapist or a coach, I have a coaching spot available. Click the link in the comments if you want to, fill out the application. But also, do you really want this? I talk about this in my book. I talk about it where in my dream life, how I wanted all this stuff. And I noticed that when I was talking about all this stuff that I wanted and thought that I needed all this stuff to feel and be successful, my energy just sank. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want the big house. That doesn't feel good for me. I don't want all this land. That doesn't feel good either. I want a smallish to modest house on a very small piece of property. That feels good. That feels so good to me. That feels empowering. And actually, we're talking about downsizing even farther to an RV and just do RV living. That feels exciting. Oh my gosh. But that's my dream life. And so when you can give yourself permission to look at, where you are, but where you want to be, is this your dream life? Is this really what you want? Or is this what someone else has put into your brain that you think you want? So when you get honest with yourself and clear this up, clear up where you're going. So now you're literally starting from a clean slate. This is where I'm at right now. This is taking that honest assessment of where you're at. And then the honest assessment of, yeah, this is what I want. Do you believe you can get it? Hell yeah, for sure. Then all you have to do is commit every day to saying, okay, so this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. What's one tiny thing that I can do to go from here to here? So if you grab your phone and you say, I want to go to the nearest tourist spot. Let's just say that there's some hiking trail or whatever. And so you put in the name of the trail in your phone or in the GPS. Well, what happens if you just put in the end result? Nothing. Because what's going to happen is all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, this is where it's at. And then you're like, well, how do I get there? And the GPS needs to know where you're starting from so that you know what trail to take, what path to take. And the cool thing is that most GPSs will give you up to 3 to 5 different paths to get to that same destination based on where you're coming from and where you're going. I mean, what a beautiful, beautiful illustration on life. Life is not a straight line from here to here. It's this beautiful journey. And I used to roll my eyes at the journey. I'm like, fuck the journey. I just want to get to the destination. But what was happening, I was missing my life. I was just going from one destination to another. And I felt burnt out because I kept achieving this thing after this thing, after this thing, after this thing, after this thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like totally missing out on all the fun. And when you realize that life is about the journey and it's about the mindset that you're holding when you are going through the journey, your whole world changes. Your whole world opens up. You see life differently. You experience this utter sense of joy and gratitude and appreciation and excitement like you've never experienced before. And I grew up in a very fast-paced home. Like my parents were uber scheduled. Like I'll show you what I got. I got a list. These are my TikToks that I did. I'm on 103 TikToks. But, I'm a list maker. I also have a planner that I use all the time. And, I grew up with very scheduled parents. And we were scheduled every single day of the week, including Sundays. We had very little downtime. And I had to work very, very hard to get out of the mindset that I had to work hard to get what I wanted. And I have to constantly be doing something. And that relaxation was lazy. I had to reprogram my brain. And that was not easy. It was not easy. So I hear you when you say that it's hard trying something new and it's hard trying to do this and that and something else, especially when you fail and you fall flat on your face or flat on your ass and you're like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm here to tell you that you're not doing anything wrong. You just have to get up, dust off your knees, dust off your ego, and say, all right, let me try again. And how you try again, where am I at? Where do I want to be? Do I really want to be here? Do I really want to achieve this goal? Do I really want to have this thing? Do I really want to be this type of person? Whatever that is. Do I really want to do this thing? And if the answer is yes, okay, perfect. Do I believe I can have this? If it's yes, okay, perfect. So what's one thing that you can do to go from here to here? This whole book dismantles and disassembles all the bullshit that gets in the way of us being able to take that journey. One of the easiest ways to clear this path between where we are and where we want to be is to clear clutter. That's why you've been seeing so many videos here on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all the things. That's the reason why you've seen so many videos about decluttering, because decluttering is the number one fastest way to achieve and start momentum, to start that engine revving, to start that tortoise in the hare race. And you're like, oh yeah, let's do this. Woo-hoo. And you're waiting for that anticipatory gunshot, and all of a sudden the gates fly open, and then you can fly to wherever it is that you're going. When you start to declutter, you start to get rid of that old baggage that's holding you back. You start to clear the mind. There are 6 types of clutter. I mentioned 5 of them in my book. But when you give yourself permission to clear through these pockets of clutter in your life, whether it's environmental clutter, mental, emotional clutter, physical clutter, sexual clutter, financial clutter, whatever it is, digital clutter, what happens? You start to feel more free. You start to have more time. You start to feel that expansiveness. And the cool thing about that, one of the things that I hear all the time is, Flora, I want this. Like, this is where you are. This is where you want to be. I want this. I just don't have the time. Everything in your home requires you to manage. Everything. Everything. You manage all the clothes. You manage all the towels and sheets. We have a great debate going on TikTok right now about the towel, the great towel debate, the 2 towel debate. Go to TikTok if you want to see the comments. It's pretty crazy. But in any case, the dishes, everything, all the knickknacks, all the tchotchkes, they require your time. You need to manage those things. The less you have in your space, the less time you take and spend doing all of that. Your time is the only thing that you can't get back. Are you investing your time, or are you wasting your time? But again, all of this comes down to mindset. Do you believe that you can have the thing that you want? Truly, ultimately, it's either a yes or a no. Do you really want what you want? And do you believe that you can have it? That's it. And if you believe you can have it, there's nothing that is going to stop you. Nothing. Again, let's go back to that time that you accomplished something. Both of my kids are active duty Marines right now. They put in their mind, I want to be a Marine. And I tried to sway them because I didn't want them to be a Marine just because me and their dad are. I really wanted it to be their decision. And I'm like, oh, there's all kinds of other things that you can do. And they're like, nope, I want to be a Marine. Woo, let's do this. And I'm like, all right. Again, I would try to entertain the ideas of other things. Not because I didn't want them to be a Marine. I think it's an amazing thing. I think everyone should do some type of uniform or armed service here in the United States. That's just my personal opinion. But even though I brought in other things for them to think about, they thought about them, we talked about them, but ultimately that's what they wanted to do. They went to boot camp and they finished. Not everybody that starts boot camp finishes. It's hard. My platoon started with 78 recruits. We graduated with 20. Actually, it was 22. I thought it was 26 for years until I actually counted the people in my graduating picture, and there's only 22 people in it. Boot camp is intense. And if you have your mind like, I am a Marine, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to finish, nothing is going to stop you. Nothing. So go back to that thing that you've already accomplished in your life that was hard as hell. It could have been driving a stick, let's just say. I don't know. I love driving a stick. I think it's fun. But it was hard to learn. Oh my God. I was grinding them gears. I was like, oh, this is not pretty. This does not sound good. But I kept trying and I kept trying, even though it was so uncomfortable and so scary to hear those gears grind. And I'm like, oh, and the teacher was like, oh shit, it's totally going to ruin my car. But I did it. And I gave myself permission to keep trying. Even though I failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, I kept trying because I believed that I could do it. Where are you at? You got to know where you're starting on the map, okay? Where are you at? This is one of the reasons why I have a map and why I have a compass. So this tattoo, this is a reminder of my father. So real quick, little side story. He had a cabin up in Bruce, Wisconsin, and he had been hunting those fields and those woods since college. Fast forward many, many years later, he's got 5 girls. I think I was maybe 8 or 9 at the time. I'm the youngest. And we're walking around the woods, seemingly lost. And we're like, Pa, are we lost? And he's like, we're not lost. I just don't know where the hell we are. And we're like, we laughed and we're like, isn't that the same thing? Like not knowing where you are and being lost? He's like, no, I know where we are. I just don't know where we are. And he's like, the loggers came through and took down some of his trees that he used as markers, as milestones at those boundary places to where he really knew his reference points, where he was in the land. And for some reason, that story just really stuck with me. And once he found a marker that he recognized, he knew exactly where he was at and he knew exactly where to go. Boom. Okay, yes. And so I got this tattoo, it's a compass, to remind myself to always stay true to who I am. And when I don't believe that I can actually have something or do something or be that person, this it spins. Not physically, of course, but metaphorically. I can't find my center. It's very hard to focus. But when I know where I'm going, sometimes it might seem like I'm lost. And same with you. It might seem like you're lost temporarily. And when you're doing something new, it might feel like you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But if you know where you're starting from and you know where you're going, all you have to commit to is taking one baby step a day. And when you commit to taking one step in a direction that you think is going to move you closer to where you want to be, the path starts to reveal itself. I promise you this, especially if you have the mindset that you can do it and that you believe, yes, this is what I want. And yes, I believe in my heart and in my head and with my full being, I believe that I can have this, do this, be this, experience this. And today I am committing to doing just one baby step. That's it. I'm committing to this. And sometimes, you're going to feel lost. Sometimes you're going to be like, what the hell am I even doing? If you give yourself permission to still feel okay with feeling like you don't know what the fuck you're doing, because I'm here to tell you, most people don't. Most people are just winging it. I've been saying that for years. I've got it in my book. But if you give yourself permission to just say, today I'm just going to commit to one baby step, one baby action, and believe that you can do it. Know that over time, you will reprogram those synapses in your brain, those patterns, that wiring in your brain. It's called neuroplasticity. You will reform those pathways in your brain to believe that you can and give you that momentum that will bring you to that place that you want to go to that person and that version of yourself that you want to be, to that experience that you want to have. But you got to give yourself permission to be honest with where you're at, where you want to go, and ask yourself, do I really want this? And do I believe I can truly have this? This is huge. So if you struggle with this and you want my support, I do have a few coaching spots available. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the comments for my coaching application. I offer group coaching and I have 4 different levels of private coaching. So no matter what your price is, no matter what your budget is, there is a budget literally for everyone in my realm, okay? But I'm truly here to help you. I've been where you're at. I have felt frustrated, beyond frustrated, because no matter what I did, I just wasn't getting where I wanted or needed to be. And with just a few tiny tweaks, I promise you, you will get there. I promise you. I do this every day inside of 1 Degree Shift Tribe, inside of the VIP lounge with my clients. Every single day, I work with clients just like you. If you believe in yourself, I believe in you too. I can only come as far as you. So the next step is for you to decide that you want support and that you are ready to finally take action. Not massive action. I don't believe in the go big or go home. That's not sustainable. That's going to lead to burnout. I am here to help you if you're ready and willing to take 1 baby step every single day. All right, click the link. Let's talk. I love you, and I hope this serves you so much today. Also, share this with someone or tag them in the comments if you feel that you know someone that this message might help them. All right, I love you, and thank you for being here. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. The links mentioned in today's podcast episode are in the show notes.